You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. This episode is sponsored by Demand Derivatives, a startup futures exchange and clearinghouse trading the world's major assets in a creative new way. You already trade on an exchange. Here is your chance to own one. Before they approach large strategic partners for funding, the pioneering team at Demand Derivatives launched a crowdfunding portal so that regular traders have the chance to buy shares. Learn more and become a part of this revolutionary fintech project now at demandderivatives.com/crowdfunding. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means it is time once again for everyone's favorite bi-weekly source for all things options related. Yes, it is time once again for what the cool kids are calling the old OB, a.k.a. the Option Block. My name is Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-scintillating Options Insider Radio Network. Coming at you usually multiple times a day. No interviews this week, but we gave you a double dose of education Wednesday. A little light in the live streams this week. How to get my second dose of the vaccine so I can make sure I'm able and ready to keep cranking out content for you folks. Good news is I'm feeling pretty good. So they say the second dose can sometimes lay people out, but I'm feeling pretty good. So it looks like you're going to get a whole bunch more content heading your way these days, listeners. So enjoy that. Look forward to that. If you like what you hear, keep rating and reviewing it wherever you get this fine program. It really does help folks discover the content these days. Of course, keep those questions and comments coming too. We do love to hear from all of you guys and gals out there. And let's see who we're going to hear from on the old program today. First, joining us from the dark and stormy shores of Maine, always overcast, always just a depressing place to be. We are joined from the GIOVINAZZI compound by the Rock Lobster himself, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com, by way of a Robinhood trader or two near you. Mr. Rock Lobster, welcome back to the program, sir.
I have to say, I don't know. I take a little umbrage at a depressing place to be. I would say it's dramatic. There's drama. There's storms. There's crashing of waves. I don't know if it's necessarily depressing, but anyway. But things are okay here at OptionPit.
Well, there you go. I figured he'd take umbrage at that. That's why we like to turn him up a little bit at the start of the show, just to tweak him a little bit, make sure the umbrage is on an 11 when the show starts, because we know that's what you're coming for. You're coming for a little dose of the umbrage and a little dose of the vol man. You're also coming for the guy, I should say, who's blowing up Twitter, a.k.a. Uncle Mike, a.k.a. the guy from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the program, to you as well, sir.
Happy to be here. It's blue skies and sunny here in St. Charles.
Well, there you go. all is well with the world of St. Charles. Let's see if all is well with the market as we head right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the trading block, the portion of the show we break down what the heck is trading, what is lighting up our tapes today. And yet another strong day out there in the markets. Most of the major indices up 1% or pretty close to it. The S&P right up pretty much at that 1% level. The NASDAQ exceeding it by about 0.1%. And the Dow, the laggard a bit, it's only up about 0.75%. That means most of our vol friends taking a bit of a break coming into the start of the show. VIX cash was right around a 16.75, puts it down about 0.6 point from last show. The VVIX, aka the vol of vol, about 106.5, down 2 points from our last show. And our old friend VXX come into showtime was at right about the 10 handle, which is down about 1/3 point or so. Let's see if it has given up anymore since we kicked. No, still right around that 10 handle or so out there. He flirts with it, breaks through it ever so briefly, and then bounces right back off of it. Of course, you mentioned on the start of the show this week, on Monday, that VXX, the moment you've all been waiting for. I said it on Vol Views last week. I said they're going to announce this reverse split right after the show, and sure enough, they did. Don't they know our broadcast schedule here? Can't they accommodate us? But there are all of you who've been writing in asking about when's that going to happen. It's happening. It's coming up soon, so keep your eyes on VXX. Soon to go from a 10 to somewhere around a 40 if it stays at this level between now and the split and vol Q, aka the at-the-money vol of the NASDAQ, at about a 20.5, puts it down about 0.5 point from last show. Of course, lots been going on out there in the market since our last show. Of course, first off, today, happy tax day. Normally, April 15th, a big day, a big to-do here in the U.S. because this is our tax day. But these days, in the post-pandemic era, not so much. They bumped it to July, I believe, last year. They think they bumped it only a month this year. By the way, you got a little bit of reprieve out there for those of you who have not done your taxes out there. You got also time to revel in the latest hot IPO. Of course, Coinbase, a.k.a. the world's largest crypto broker / exchange, going public earlier this week. They had set a quote-unquote reference price of $250. And that really didn't hold much water for very long. Started trading at $381 a share. Got up to as high as $429, dropped to as low as $310. So 119-point range. That's a little bit of volatility out there. End of the day at about 328. That puts it at right around $85 billion. If you're wondering, by way of comparison, CME coming into today's show actually had about a $73.5 billion market cap, so it eclipses CME. It dwarfs NASDAQ. NASDAQ's only $26.3 billion. I think you can add in NYSE and NASDAQ together. They still don't equate that market cap. So the old narrative used to be that these crypto exchanges, they want to grow up to be a CME or a NASDAQ or something like that. And we had a guest on our crypto show earlier this week who only really half jokingly said they think maybe CME and NASDAQ want to grow up to be Coinbase these days, given the valuations that they're throwing around out there. And before everyone asks, no options yet, but we have seen an acceleration of this listing of options on these hot IPOs because the exchanges all want volume. They all want market share. It used to be, probably a couple of weeks, if not a month or two before you really got the options. These days, they've got it down. They can get them listed in, I've seen it as soon as a week and change. So keep your eyes out. Coinbase is a hot enough one that they probably will have the options announcement sometime soon. Maybe we'll have an announcement even during the show here. SIBO or others might be, when they're planning to list these things, we'll keep an eye out for it. As soon as we know, listeners, we'll let you folks know. But probably it's reasonable to expect these hot IPOs now to have options within a week. And this name, $381, yeah, this is tailor-made for some options on it. Some of these IPOs, they're $12, $18, whatever. Doesn't really scream for options. $381, $119 range first day. Yeah, that screams for some options. So that'll be nice when those get listed. So everyone can come play, and not just people who feel like shelling out nearly $400 a share out there. Let's go around the horn. Let's start in the land of umbrage. Mr. Rock Lobster, what's lighting up your tape? And did you get your piece of the coin action, sir?
You know what I did is I thought I was really smart. You know what I did?
You shorted it at 328.
No, I thought I was really clever, and I bought some CME, because CME is listing the mini Bitcoin futures.
They are, yes.
And they are, and that has been so. Not just so the listeners know, not all my trades turn out super awesome. This one has been a one-way road to Palookaville. Biggest piece of crap I ever like. Normally I buy a call, and because I bought a little strangle thing, and I'm like, okay, you'll get a little performance. This is even with earnings, right? Like call is down like 25%. The market's up probably 4% since I bought this, and CME is down $3. It is the biggest piece of junk. So clearly, listeners, I am biased right now. I thought, wow, that listing, I can't see how that's not going to be big for CME. Because Coinbase, you can buy the stock, right? But you're not actually trading the futures. But Coinbase obviously is an exchange for the whatever the product, the Bitcoin product. But CME has the quick and dirty futures, and I thought we would see something out of it, but clearly not. So at least for right now, I am totally wrong. The good news is if I see CME trade 210, I will be back to even. So right now, and that's like nothing for the stock. It's like a 2.5% move. But clearly, all the money is going into Coinbase. I do notice too, like stocks like RIOT, Mara, all of these sort of Bitcoin proxies. People are getting out of them with both hands. There was a big run up yesterday. I think RIOT traded almost $60. It's down to $44 today, with volatility kind of imploding. I'm wondering is if all these Bitcoin proxy stocks are really going to get killed because they don't really make money. They don't really do anything. They say they're going to mine Bitcoin, but like everything that kind of was sort of attached to Bitcoin, I think people are getting out of. I think they're getting into something real like the Coinbase exchange, where, you can argue about the valuation and who knows what Bitcoin's going to be worth, but like these little proxy stocks that really don't make any money. And it's like, you don't really get the coins when you buy the stock. So anyway, that's an observation I'm making. RIOT has been a good, like little backspread trading stock. If you like kind of trading the swings, it's been very good for me like that. But, it's not looking. This is about as low a price as it's been since this listing. So I thought like the Coinbase would, but people are just getting the heck out, and it's at a 2-week low right now, and it doesn't look very good. Like it could actually. The recent low here is 40.42. And I think people are just taking their RIOT money and getting the heck out and sticking it in Coinbase because you're kind of buying the mothership, and now people don't have to deal with these peripheral stocks anymore. So I think there's a little bit of that to Tesla as well. Tesla's not doing very well today on the Bitcoin stuff, and MSTR is another one. MicroStrategy is down. It traded 850 and now it's down. So while that actually owns Bitcoin, I think there's a shift. So that's the biggest thing I noticed today. And I think it took a little bit of the vol with it, to be honest. So it put a little bit of vol back in the market. And I have to admit at this point, and I don't know, maybe TOSAW, we can debate this, but we're getting to a point where this Bitcoin monster is starting to become large. Now, the difference is I don't think there's really leverage in Bitcoin yet, because you just have to own the Bitcoin, right? And people are owning pieces. So since there's really no leverage, but I'm sure somebody on some desk somewhere is starting to leverage this product somehow. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. So I think the funk is starting to sneak into the market. Again, I'm not a bear or a bull on Bitcoin. I mostly just sit and watched it, with my mouth kind of hanging open. I will tell you, my students were mining Bitcoin 10 years ago for about $45 a piece. I'm like, what are you bothering spending all that money on a computer.
You told them, shut down that rig. You're wasting your time and money, and they could have had their own private island.
So like,
they should sue you.
All that work to mine a $45 coin, and they're like, "Well, it's cool. It's the future." Like, so I can admit I was totally wrong. Had no freaking idea, and that's what it is. So anyway, everybody that's making tons of money on Bitcoin, I say more power to you. Knock yourself out. But right now, everything that is not exactly Bitcoin is getting kind of smacked with a stick.
So when you're saying you think people are starting to use leverage, are you saying you're expecting a massive margin call to come sweeping across Bitcoin on the next downturn, sir?
I don't think it's happening yet, but you know it's coming, right? There's just too much money in it now, notional value, for banks not to. It's kind of like the subprime mortgage thing. Everybody's like, oh, housing prices will never go down. It's like, and there's going to be reasonable leverage on the mini Bitcoin futures. And, I don't know what the listing is for the big future on the Merc right now for Bitcoin, how much you have to put up, 20%, 25%. I don't know exactly what it is, but normally they only ask you for like 10 or 20%, right?
It's been pretty high on the Bitcoin futures for a while. Ever since that's how they got them approved to be launched to begin with, right? You couldn't really just short it out the gate. You had to pretty much do 1-to-1.
Yeah. Okay. So, but there you go. I mean, I don't think there's been a lot of leverage in this system to now, from what I can tell. I could be totally wrong, but from what I can see, it's plenty volatile enough, but it's getting to the point where, you now have the Coinbase exchange. You are going to have futures on the Merc. You are going to have the mini futures. I just can't believe it's not going to attract more attention. It's going to start becoming a big, it's going to start, I don't know how much, but I've noticed it does ripple the vol a little bit in VIX. Okay. It's not huge yet, but it's caused a little ripple, I believe, yesterday. So it is connected, maybe just algos and stuff, but anyway, we'll see. But you can't not watch it now. I think if you're gonna trade options and trade vol, it's now part of the complex now.
I like it. The Bitcoin ripples on VIX, but you're right. It's hard to divorce it. It is now synonymous with Tesla, which is the driver of S&P vol. So you could easily back it into, at the very least, a ripple effect on what's going on out there in S&P vol these days. Let's head on out to the land of all things volatility and Bitcoin, aka St. Charles. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what's been catching your eye? And did you get a piece of the coin madness, sir?
I'm not even going to acknowledge it because I have good news for everybody. Never before in the history of the entire stock market has there ever been a better time to sell than right now. We have new all-time highs in the S&P 500. I don't care what Bitcoin does. Phooey on Bitcoin. I don't care. Okay. Now, with that being said, let me tell you what I think about Bitcoin. All right. So I do agree with Andrew from the standpoint it is getting so big that it needs to be, you got to look at it. I mean, you can't ignore it forever. As much as I hate it, you can't ignore it. It's done what it's done. But here is where my official position on Bitcoin has moved to. What I am experimenting right now in the St. Charles Wealth Management Trading Laboratory, as a potential asset class, I'm looking to add in the form of Bitcoin some type of straddle-esque position. I don't believe it's a good long-term holding. I don't think we're even going to be talking about Bitcoin 5 years from now. That is my official position on it. But with the movement with which it has had and the fact that it's proven me wrong from how I've been making fun of it from the get-go, I can't ignore it. I'm a man who's man enough to admit when I'm wrong. But with that being said, I don't believe it's a good long-term holding. I think that if you want to have long-term holdings, you need stocks, you need bonds, you need real estate, and things along those lines, and to some extent commodities. But Bitcoin, I do believe that over the course of the next few years, we won't be hearing about it anymore. With that being said, I think the fact that the good news about who I am and who we are, we're option traders. What if I am wrong? What if I'm dead wrong and Bitcoin goes from 60,000 to 4 million? Well, my thought is if I have a type of straddle-esque position on, then we'll be okay with it. We'll get to be a part of such a move. But if Bitcoin falls on its face, like I personally think it's going to, then the straddle can also help you along those lines. So those are my thoughts on Bitcoin. Now, let's talk about more important things in this marketplace. Let's talk about the S&P 500, the thing that's been around for over 100 years, that averages 10% throughout time, as opposed to Bitcoin that's been around for roughly 10 years. With that, we have new all-time highs. That's big news. That's huge. That's an awesome thing. We're over the 4150 mark on SPX. We're making a run at the 4200 mark, and that's a very exciting thing. As of right now, it appears that we're back to our correlation of the 10-year note along with technology, because in looking at it, the yield of the 10-year note is going lower today, meaning that the bonds are going higher. And just looking at the sectors, XLK is up a pretty nice amount on the day today in technology. So we're having that again to where we have technology moving along in kind of the same motion as bonds. And so that can be a very exciting thing. Right now, I have a problem right now with my IEF covered calls that I haven't had in a while, and that they're in the money, and I gotta either roll them up, let them get called away, and you know what? It's kind of a nice problem to have, quite frankly. So. To me, in terms of what's lighting up my tape, that's what I'm seeing in the marketplace right now. Silver is rallying. Silver is up a little over 40 cents on the day, so it is up roughly 1.5%. So we do have that as well. But with that, I think that to me, the S&P 500 is still the 800-pound gorilla. That's still what makes the world go round, and I'm sticking with that. And that is what I'm seeing today.
Let's see if the rest of the market is sticking with the S&P and the other major indices out there right now. Let's kick it off in vol land, where, as the Rock Lobster admits, we're seeing the ripples, perhaps, of Bitcoin out there. They're rippling all the way to 349,000 contracts right now in VIX land. That's actually a pretty decent ripple because the ADV is only down to about 510. That's down to about 15,000 contracts from our last show. So the ADV has been slowly eroding, and today's volume looks like it's probably going to threaten that out there. So interesting volume out the tape out there. In VIX land, SPY, similar deal, north of half of its ADV right now, at about 2.53 million contracts. The ADV about 4.3 million. So it looks like it's probably going to exceed its ADV out there as well. The S, 753,000 contracts right now. The ADV 1.2 million. So looking strong, looking robust for the S as well. The Q, 633,000. The ADV 1.2 million. So right around half there. So good chance the Qs could get there as well. But kind of the laggard is IWM, only 252,000 contracts. Their ADV has come in a bit, but it's still 583,000 contracts. So not quite there yet for the small caps. If you want more small caps, of course, stay tuned, listeners. And if you want, Rock Lobster was talking about mini and micro things going on in the realm of Bitcoin and then in the equities. Stay tuned. We're going to have some good guests joining us on TWIFO in about exactly an hour to break down all that good stuff and a whole bunch more. Let's head on out to the most active single names, see what you folks are slinging out there today. Cost you 220,000 contracts to break into the top 10. So that's a fairly active day. It's not, 180 or anything like that. It's also not, 300,000, but that's a pretty active day. And that gets you to Amazon. Amazon breaking back into the top 10, 220,000. Number 9, Softy, making some news earlier this week with their Nuance acquisition. They're still lighting it up to the tune of 229,000 contracts. Number 8, getting memey again with AMC, good for 233,000 contracts on the tape. Let's see what our friend AMC is up to today. Up again, 967, up about 30 odd cents, or about 3.5%. So trying to threaten that 10 handle again. Looks like it broke it ever so briefly. Yeah, hit up to 10.02 earlier this morning before giving it up. So it's had many flirtations with that 10 handle over the last couple of months, and it seems like it's trying to flirt with it again. Number 7, NVIDIA, making some big news this week as well with their server chip, good for 296,000 contracts. Number 6, NEO. Now we're jumping up. We're already at number 6. We're already over 400,000. So the top half of the top 10 here, pretty deep, pretty hefty from a volume perspective. NEO, 430,000 contracts. So number 6. Number 5, Palantir, 441,000. Number 4, AMD, once again looking strong, 477,000 contracts. Number 3, Bank of America, 507,000 contracts. You know, the financials are popping off this week on the official kickoff to earnings season. So if you were missing a little bit of earnings in your life, don't worry, we got you covered. We'll break it down over there for you in a second. Check out the reports for yourselves, theoptionsinsider.com. Number 2, you know what it is. It's Tesla, 790,000 contracts. That means the big dog, once again, Apple, 1.08 million, back over a million. Again, that's kind of the barometer. That shows how far Apple has come. If they don't do a million, we're disappointed. So 1.08 million today, looking pretty robust. Let's just see really quickly what is the most biased paper on our top 10. Looks like it's Palantir. 80% of that 441,000 contracts coming on the call side of the ledger. Let's look up Palantir really quickly, see what they're up to. They're off 85 cents, 22.83, off 3.5%. So interesting. They started off the day at around 24 even. So yeah, it's not a good day for Palantir. You had a lot of call action out there. Maybe some folks thinking this is overdone, or they're blasting the hell out of those calls. Either way, 80% of 441,000 coming in the calls. Let's move on out to earnings season. We saw it kicking off kind of officially this week with names like JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, and BBBY on Wednesday. Today we got Bank of America, Rite Aid, Citi, Delta Airlines, and PepsiCo, and of course Alcoa. The old school kickoff to earnings season, but really who pays attention to aluminum these days? And then Friday, we got Morgan Stanley, Ally, and PNC. Do we have the reports for you? Of course we do. You know where to find them? Of course you do. TheOptionsInsider.com. Click on that options news and articles tab, and you can dive back in. If the last couple of seasons, you know, you've been waiting for that inflection point, you're kind of disappointed. Here we go. Fresh season in our hot little hands. Let's see what we're getting so far. We've got a move results reports hot off the presses from our friends over there at ORATS right before the show. So already breaking down some of the new announcements. Let's start in that big dog, Bank of America, the one that's lighting it up today. They were at 39.88 going into their announcement. They were pricing in 2.6%, delivered nearly 4%, 3.9%. Wow. Outperformance from an earnings vol perspective. Haven't seen that in quite some time. Let's see if that's a trend or just a one-off. Let's go out to Rite Aid. They were at 19.05 going into their announcement. They were pricing in 10%. Oh, they delivered 7.3%. Wah, wah. So there we go. That's more of what we expect. PepsiCo, let's see, 142.11 is where they were at their announcement. They were pricing in 1.7%. They delivered 0.3%. Yes, that's more along the lines of what I expected. I got a little excited with Bank of America, but alas, it was not to be. Listeners, yeah, you can check those out for yourselves. Hot off the presses, theoptionsinsider.com is the place to go. If you're wondering, we have a total of 5 firms reporting so far for the earnings season report. And so far, it's pretty much 1-to-1. Implied vol versus what's actually been delivered in the marketplace. It's actually at exactly 100%, but I don't expect it to stay that way for long. Once we have more than 5 firms in our rundown, definitely going to start going back into the red. Let's see what we got coming up for us. We got our friends at Ally. They have Options Playbook Radio fame popping off tomorrow before the bell. They were at 47.75 as of this report. They were pricing in $1.70. In the past, they've moved about $1.70. So kind of staying par for the course. Their PNC 179.34. They were pricing in $4.34. In the past, they've moved $4.99. So I guess they're getting the memo out there. IBM, let's see what's up in good old Beamer. They're popping off on the 19th after the bell. They were at 132.63 as of this report. They were pricing in $5.40. In the past, they moved $7.10. That's a lot less vol. And again, someone clearly getting the memo out there in IBM land. Let's go to United Airlines, 56.92. They're popping off on the 19th after the bell as well. They were pricing in $2.82. In the past, they've moved $2.86. So people are starting to get the memo out there that if you price in a lot of extra juice, you get slaughtered. Let's go out to a name that is kind of infamous for pricing in a lot of juice and often delivering it. It is Netflix. They're popping off on the 20th after the bell. As of this report, they were trading $5.40, pretty much even. They were pricing in $34.18. In the past, they moved $33.50. So kind of pretty much in line with previous expectations. So that's interesting. P&G 135.60. They're pricing in 360. In the past, they moved 356. So again, it seems like the memo is getting out there, listeners. Let's go to J&J. They've made some headlines of late and not good ones. Let's see, 159.92 as of this report. They were pricing in $3.57. In the past, they moved 296. So there we go. Got to go all the way out to J&J to find a little bit extra juice. And it's kind of hard to argue that's not warranted with their vaccine, certainly in the questionable phase right now. You know what's not questionable, though, listeners? It's the odd block. So let's get to it.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we get weird, we get wild, well, at least weirder than the rest of the show, which is saying a lot. Let's kick things off in Keurig Dr. Pepper. I haven't had Dr. Pepper in forever, but I had one just the other day. And you know what? It was delicious. So there we go. A little bit of a timely Odd Block. I should have a Dr. Pepper right now. It sounds kind of good. Keurig Dr. Pepper ticker symbol, easy for me to say, ticker symbol KDP. Trading right now, 35.88, up about half a buck, or about 1.5%. This is the name. Let's look at the year that Keurig Dr. Pepper has had. See what's been going on out there in the various beverage realms covered by Keurig Dr. Pepper. 26.84 is where it was a year ago on tax day. And then it kind of shot up to, actually not June 8th this time. Took all the way to July 29th for this one to really hit its apex of 31.26. And then it kind of gave it right back again. By September 29th, it was trading 27.11 again. So it had a brief blip, a brief flirtation with upside and gave it up. Then rallied again on October 13th back to almost $30. Then sold off again to 27 in November and kind of did that a few times. And then we got to January 27th where it rallied up to 33.20 this time. So it got all the way up to 33.20. And then it sold off again down to 30 and change. So this one's had a few fits and starts along the way. Seemed like it was running, seemed like it was breaking free, then dragged right back down to earth. And then it rallied again pretty hard. Coming into March, looks like it had a really good month here because it got all the way up to 35 and about a half. And that's pretty much where the top for the year there until today, of course. Then they kind of sold off again, and then they kind of rallied again. And pretty much right back to where it is right now, 35.88, up a half a buck today. So setting new highs out there for the year in Keurig Dr. Pepper. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron has found out here. Listen, looks like a bit of a call palooza, Mr. Rock Lobster. First off, we noticed 12,200 of the May 36s going up kind of right off the bid, though kind of splitting the uprights a little bit at 108.1. Love the splits out there. Let's see, that's a 26 and about a half vol if you're curious, listeners. The stock was 35.80, so right about where it is right now. And there are earnings in this cycle. They are on April 29th. So got a little bit of earnings juice baked in there. And then we started digging. We said, that seems like an odd print. And we noticed a total of 20,000 of these things that traded on the day now. So that's a lot. 20,000 of these May 36s. And we dug a little more. We saw it wasn't alone. At the same time, that 12,000 lot went up, about 7,800 of the April 33 calls also went up for 275 right on the bid. For some reason I don't have the vol here, which is interesting. I must have cut it off on the screen. So it's assume it's at least the same vol, maybe a little bit less here. Yeah, no vol on this, which is kind of interesting. I guess it blew their minds here. They couldn't calculate the vol for us. But yeah, 275 on these. So Mr. Rock Lobster could be a bit of getting the heck out of Dodge on both strikes, deciding, this upside they had in April 33s and May 36s was just a little bit of too much. And they're getting the heck out of Dodge. They could be getting out of Aprils and rolling to Mays, even though that's a nice price for it. They were buying those calls. But they could have bought those, in which case, bit of a house money roll, because usually when you see more on the second leg, it means they got a little bit of the house money to burn here. So what's your thought on this? Think they're closing the April 33s, which are now deeply in the money, and buying the May 36s, saying the party is going to keep alive in Keurig Dr. Pepper? Or you think something else is afoot out here, sir?
I think as far as this goes, I think this could be a house money roll because it has all of the hallmarks, right? You had a huge up move. Looks like you got a close on the short-term calls. And then somebody rolled up into the long term. What was I thought most interesting is they're only rolling a month out. And they look like they're running about the same amount of money as well. So they're taking their money, they're buying 50% more calls, and they're looking for more. So I'm actually looking at like, wow, this is actually, they sell coffee and Dr. Pepper. So it was interesting on the level. It's not like it's a cheap Dr. Pepper stock, but somebody's definitely rolling with the whole shebang. I think that's the house money roll is a good one on this one.
Yeah, usually listeners, when you see that size type of paper, that ratio of paper, that means they made money on the first one, and these calls are a couple bucks in the money now, so it looks like they did, and they're probably coming back for more. And they got some money to burn, so we're going to keep an eye on these. We'll come back to Keurig Dr. Pepper, see if our friend is right yet again as we keep on rolling into our next name. This is IPG, Interpublic Group of Companies. Everyone's favorite. Ticker symbol, of course, IPG. Trading today, $30.60. Let's see. Let's go, for some reason, my system doesn't want to give me data on going back a little bit here. In everyone's favorite IPG. There we go. Is that working? All right. Let's go back 6 months then. Let's do that. Here we go. 6 months ago, it was trading 23 and change, and it's kind of been on an upward trajectory for the better part of the last 6 months, up to about $30 in March. Kind of sold off again down to $27.83. And then it began its second leg of its rally up to where it is right now, $30.60. It's up about 70 cents today, or about 2.3%. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found out here. Looks like it's the May 30s. Kind of has a bit of an old school odd block whiff to it, Mr. Rock Lobster, because it looks like someone had to have the May 30s paying $136.6 more splits here. So going beyond the offer of 135 to get a whopping 5,212 done here. If you're wondering, that's a 33.3 vol. Listeners, stock was a little bit lower. It's about 30.20 when this trade went up. There are earnings in this bad boy as well. They're coming on the 28th. So Mr. Rock Lobster, it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It probably is a duck. This has all the looks and feels of an old school odd block trade. Someone coming in right before earnings, gobbling up those calls, say, I gotta have them, and I'm willing to pay almost any price. What are your thoughts here on this aggressive IPG call, Lobster?
Well. So you know what we haven't seen in a long time in the odd block? Aggressive call buying. We've seen a lot of funky different paper, but it's been a while since we've seen just folks just going up and just taking the offer and buying some calls. So I would think that they are correct on this one. But what is this? What is Interpublic Group of Companies? Is it an advertise? Oh, it is advertising. Was this Arnold Palmer's? Didn't he start this one? Or that's IMG? Sorry, IMG.
What's confusing about the name Interpublic Group of Companies? The name says it all, sir.
It's like, woohoo! Let's get behind this well-known, name that everybody can recognize. Totally. Who the hell knows what it is? So you know what? I guess the recipe is you have to just be super stealthy as a company, and then people want to buy your calls. So the short answer is it does look like somebody's just buying the offer, and they're looking for they're trying to ride the earnings as far as I can tell. Does it look bad? I mean, basically this company looks like every other company over the last 6 months. It was at its low in November, and now it's basically up 50%. So, I mean, find a company that doesn't look like that. Probably the SPACs. That's the only thing
and
I can
maybe
think
CME, maybe given your recent travails.
CME. Junk.
I will come up with one more here. Mr. Unlimited chiming in our chat says he bought some of those calls. So I think he was talking about the KDP calls, the Keurig Dr. Pepper here, where we couldn't find the vol for these bad boys. He said he bought some of those. They were 21% implied vol. So that's a little bit lower than our other friend, but that makes sense. It was about 26.5 for the others. I could see the April ones that are now in the money being a little bit less. There you go. Let us know how it works out for you there, Mr. Unlimited. Like yourself, a little Keurig Dr. Pepper. Do you? Let's see what our last Eye of Sauron likes itself. We're going out. This is a newcomer to the odd block. This is Scientific Games Corporation. This ticker symbol SGMS. It's provide gambling products and services to lottery and gambling organizations across the globe. Interesting. A year ago, trading $9.64. And Mr. Rocklofter said kind of a straight up trajectory ever since then. They had pretty much doubled by September. They're trading around $18-19. And then they just gapped up by September 10th, they're trading $19. By September 15th, they were trading $30. And by September 25th, they're trading about $37. So they had nearly doubled in just pretty much a week here. And then they kind of stayed at this lofty level for a while, gapped up again to 47.25 on January 7th. Then they kind of gave it back again, got down to 39 and change on February 1st. Then rallied again a few times up to actually hit 50.66 on March 1st. Got up to their high of almost 53, 52.88 before giving it a lot of it back. On March 29th, they're trading 37.40 again. And now they're kind of on the next leg of this rebound here where they're starting to turn it up again. They've been rallying for the better part of the last few weeks, all the way up to kind of where they are right now, right about 44.5. So kind of an interesting tale here. Not just straight up. They had a few fits and starts along the way, but mostly aggressively up, especially in the middle of the year there. They shot straight up. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found. Yeah, looks like, once again, call love here, Mr. Rock Lobster. In particular, it was the May 50s going up an even 5,000 times for, once again, above the offer. They were offered at $1.50. This guy said, nah, I'll pay $163.9 for those bad boys through the offer. I'm sure he didn't say that on purpose. I'm sure that was what he needed to pay for the real liquidity out there to get 5,000 done. And everyone's favorite name, Scientific Games Corp. Let's see. That was about a 67 vol. And there are earnings on the 10th of May after the close. So once again, old school odd block paper, Mr. Rock Lobster. Stock's been running for a while. They're paying through the nose, through the offer for some calls, and they got earnings baked in there. This is kind of like odd block 101, sir.
Yeah, well, you know my rule for buying calls. Nothing like buying calls, and the first day you buy them, they're already trading for a higher price than when you bought them. Doesn't that just warm the cockles
It's a
of
good
your heart?
feeling. It's a warm fuzzy, yes.
Yes, gives you the warm and fuzzies. And they paid through the offer. This used to be the old Shuffle Master. You know, that little, those automatic card shufflers that they make for Vegas. And I think they've branched out a little bit since then.
Now they're very scientific.
Now they're very scientific. I guess Shuffle Master didn't sound scientific enough. I think that was the problem. Shuffle Master sounded a little too much like, just
something your grandma would have like in her card drawer or something, you know?
Exactly. Let me pull out my Shuffle Master. No, I'm going to pull out my Scientific Gaming card manipulator. Anyway, so yeah, it looks like more of the same, just people buying calls. Hey, betting on a big rebound in Vegas. I have never personally understood I used to trade this when I think Shuffle was the symbol years ago, and I have never understood how this stock traded. But somebody is paying huge for this company right now. So it's an enigma wrapped in a mystery as far as I'm concerned, why somebody would want to own it. But there you go. They're buying the heck out of it.
They want to own it, and they really want to own it. They want paying through the nose for these calls through earnings. So we'll come back to both of these and see how they fare. But now it's time to see what you folks have on the brain. Looks like you got a lot on your brains as we head on into the mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the mail block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the mail block. You guys got a lot to say, so we'll go through this poll quickly. We got a poll out there now. You can find it over there at Options is the place to go to make your voice heard there. I'll pin it, make it even easier for you folks to find it. You guys have been talking a lot. People have been asking us a lot about about mini options. We said the retail options explosion. A lot of people asking about mini options again. Of course, the 1/10 sized options on Amazon and Apple and all those were launched and quickly delisted years ago. Is it time for a comeback? Quite simply, will we see new mini options launched this year? I gave you two choices. Yes, it's comeback time, or no, they should stay dead. And before I reveal the results, let's go around the horn really quickly. Uncle Mike, we'll start with you. Do you have a vote? And then B, more importantly, what do you think our audience is voting for?
Sorry about that. No, I definitely want them to come back. I think that especially with the stocks on like the Googles and the Amazons being so high priced, I think there'd be a lot of demand for them. It seems like the issue before was that the people that traded them, all of a sudden, when the brokers never lowered their commissions on them. So if it's a mini option, it's like you're paying for a 10 lot, even though it's really just a mini option. So I think there's a place for them. I would use them. I used them when they were out the first time. I didn't use them that much because the liquidity stunk, but I did try to do my part and get them going. But I think they should come back. I would love to see them, and I would trade them in some way, shape, or form. And I think the audience agrees with me on this.
Interesting, Mr. Meatball, or I should say Mr. Rock Lobster. What are your thoughts, sir?
I don't know. You launch a product once and it sucks and nobody uses it. My sense would be it would suck and nobody would use it again. So I don't rarely disagree with TOSAW, but I'm going to disagree with
Interesting. The umbrage coming out a little bit. You can argue, though, it is a different time. There's way more retail players now than there ever have been before. So you could argue perhaps now is the optimal time to launch these minis and of course, no commissions anymore, or at least reduced commissions and no ticket charges really out there. So that's nice. From an options perspective, makes it a little bit more viable for these products. Right now, again, it's still early days on this poll, but right now it's 60-40 in favor of yes. More no's than I thought, so a little bit more umbrages out there. A few more Dolores umbrages floating around like the Rock Lobster, which is kind of interesting. Let's get on out to the live listeners. Mr. Luigi, he's in there. He says, I listened to Uncle Mike's strategy block. So that's your first mistake, Luigi. He says, I wanted to say I set up a separate account to do the triple income gig. What are his thoughts of doing a ratio call spread instead of just a covered call with a long position kicker? So selling 2, buying 1, and possibly the same on the put side. So Mr. Uncle Mike, sounds like your triple income strategy has penetrated to Luigi. You lured him to the dark side, but now he wants to take it up a notch. He wants to do ratios. What are your thoughts on that, Mr. Uncle Mike?
Oh, Luigi. Love Luigi. Luigi and I have spoken before. Luigi's good people. So I think that it's a different trade in that if you combine a ratio spread with a stock, you're getting double leverage essentially from where the long leg starts to where the short legs begin, but you get nothing after that. So I used the ratio spread at times, but I think that in this environment with higher volatility, I prefer to take the sure income versus the potential double leverage at this point. If you believe the stock is going to go up slowly, and by slowly meaning at a pace to where it's going to go between the current price and the short strike prices of your ratio spread, then it's a phenomenal strategy. I love it. But the disadvantage of that versus the covered call is that if it stays the same, you don't get to collect that income. So that's something you have to decide for yourself as to what makes more sense. Are you looking for the guaranteed $1 or the potential $3 or $4 or whatever the ratio spread distance is? In terms of the put side, I like doing it. It's a similar concept of getting into a spread, meaning that you can sell, or getting into a stock, you can sell a put, get paid to get into it if it gets put to you. Or you can do a 1x2, meaning you buy the 50 put, sell the 245 puts, and then you'd get paid more to get into it that way. But the disadvantage is that if you have a flat market, you don't get that income. So I like it. It's just a different trade, but it's definitely something that's in my toolbox, and I think it's a good thing to do if it's the right situation.
Spreading your message, your gospel of the triple income trade far and wide, sir. We got Tony, our grand prize winner of our Broker Madness Palooza in the chat. He's scaring me. He says, did you guys get the Pfizer shot? If so, they just announced a third shot. I'm assuming it's in the arm. Hey, I hope it's still in the arm. I hope they're not getting anywhere else. And I have not heard this, Tony. You're scaring me if that is indeed the case. Let's hope that's not the case. Let's hope I'm done. Let's hope I'm 2 and done. But I guess we'll have to wait and see there. Luigi says you're good people too, Uncle Mike. I don't know if I agree with that, but that's a conversation for another day. Let's see. We've got Stock Twits Arcade was listening to us. He listened to when you said all these Bitcoin proxy stocks are going to get killed, Mr. Rock Lobster. He says this is why SOS is monetizing their crypto business. Oh, he's just kind of plugging a stock here. Let's go out to Tobias. Tobias says, I love your podcast material. Even an idiot such as myself can grasp it. Well, A, thank you, Tobias, for those kind words. B, I think you're being unkind to yourself. If you listen to our shows, you are clearly not an idiot. You are clearly a person of discerning and distinguished tastes. And you should applaud yourself for taking this proactive step to elevate yourself above the masses. Well done there, Tobias T and everyone else who's listening out there. Pretty active. Speaking of active listeners here, we've got Zeely KW. He's got a bunch of questions. We'll get to a couple here. He wants to know, first, where do I go to vote for the broker madness? Well, unfortunately, Zeely KW, that is over. We had a record turnout for it. Check out the recent episode we just did where I broke down all the results. Folks at Lightspeed, our surprise winner, pulling it out. Triumph, they had one of the tougher roads to go through in the brackets, and they managed to pull it out. They took out the juggernaut of TD/Schwab, and then the final battle, they took out E-Trade/Morgan Stanley. So well done to them. They will be on the network soon to savor their victory. There's no kind of in-person plaque or trophy anymore. Those days are gone. So now it's more of just a virtual pat on the back for them and give them a chance to maybe explain why they think they triumphed over everyone else these days. A lot of big names fell by the wayside, even in round one. Robinhood fell by the wayside. Interactive Brokers fell by the wayside in round one. It was a challenging tournament this year, but Lightspeed did it. Let's talk to them in the coming weeks and see why they think they did. He also, Suli KW also wants to say, I also just want to let you know I envy your outstandingly sophisticated vocabulary. Thanks as always. Love the show. Well, thank you very much. You know, we work hard here to provide you with a fun show, including those fun $10 words, as Uncle Mike would say, that just make the show, just elevate it that much more out there. You should talk to my son. I'm trying to convince him the importance of a good vocabulary. You know, it seems to be lost on this Gen Z folks out here. But thank you for your kind words, Zeely KW. Let's go to one more here, regular listeners. Let's go to Scott Somer. Wants to know, do you guys plan to interview the Tradier folks? They have a single monthly fee to have zero commissions and I think he means free trading. They've been on the network in the past. They were on our Options Bootcamp show a couple of years ago, I think. They were in our tournament. They didn't fare very well. They got kicked out in round one as well, though to be fair, they did fight the juggernaut of TD/Schwab, so a bit of a rough seed for them. So they have been on the network in the past. No plans to bring them on again. If they won, certainly we would have brought them on. But that honor goes to the Lightspeed folks. All right, let's save this one for later because it kind of depresses me. Instead, let's keep rolling into our final segment. It is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, let's do it. Let's go around the block. Let's start with the rockingest of lobsters. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, what are you and your compatriot Volman keeping an eye on until our next episode, sir?
I have to say, the quality of the letters today were quite impressive.
We have some good ones out there, even though they're scaring me with this talk of third doses of vaccines and whatnot.
Oh, I'm a little worried about the third shot, where the third shot's going to be. I just realized that.
Yes, that's in the eyeball, straight to the eye.
Well, so I've been writing some Pfizer calls for like 2 weeks, and I sold them this morning. I don't know, it's probably trading what, I'm going to say 37.53 before this announcement came out. And but it's such a disappointing stock to own calls in, at least anything that is shorter than 30 days. So even with this announcement, the stock only rallied like 22 cents, I think. So a little bit pathetic of a performance. But anyway, I still have some shares. I can't quite get rid of them. So anyway. And I have a 1x2, like a Mike TOSAW, a recovery strategy type trade. But anyway, what is going on and what am I watching? Well, I think like Mike said, the NASDAQ SPX all-time highs, except for crappy CME stock. So very interesting. Another thing I would mention is these SPACs are kind of at a pretty dang low levels, and I'm wondering if there's going to be a big washout on them. So I'm watching those two things. VIX seems to have found its area in what we'll call zone 2. So, but what I am noticing is the upside vol is starting to get smacked a little bit in SPX and Q, which usually will lead to eventually a little bit lower VIX in the next couple of days. So keep an eye on that. But that's what I'm watching. And we did a little launch of our vol edge, but I guess we can cover that in the end.
And Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on to our next episode?
What I'm looking at right now is we have new all-time highs. So that's the thing that I'm very focused on. The other thing that I'm continuing to watch, which doesn't seem to be very popular anymore, but it was a month ago, because that coin thing, the Byte coins or whatever you call those things, Bitcoin, that's kind of taken away the news headlines. But I'm continuing to watch the correlation with the price of bonds and the technology stocks. So I'm watching those things and all-time highs, and that's what I'm looking at.
And we're going to be looking at another episode of TWIFO coming up pretty soon, in about exactly 30 minutes. But before we do that, let's go back around the horn, see what each of our compatriots has to share with you. Let's start with the rockingest of lobsters. Sir, you talked about some vol edge thing. If folks want to learn about that list, where should they go? What should they do, sir?
Go on over to optionpit.com, sign up for memberships, and check out Vol Edge. Because we added my Vol Trade Club to it. If you want to do a lifetime membership, it'll probably be the best price you'll ever get ever. So it's a great product for learning how to trade vol. That's all I can say. And the price is right.
Price is right. Check it out, optionpit.com. And Mr. Uncle Mike, if they want to give you a follow on the old Twitters, where should they go? What should they do?
Check me out or follow me at Mike TOSAW, spelled TOSAW. What I do is I try and put out a lot of educational content. Typically on Mondays, I'll give a follow-up to the strategy block, and I'll link it to my website, which is stcharleswealth.com. If you are interested in working with a financial advisor who frequently uses the option product, reach out to me. Check it out on my website, stcharleswealth.com.
Check them out, stcharleswealth.com. And, of course, you can check us out to stay live. If you're listening live, we'll pump some fun stuff, some fun Education Wednesday stuff, and then we'll be back in exactly 30 minutes to talk about all the stuff Mr. Rock Lobster was talking about earlier, all these contracts launching, new stuff launching over there at CME. We're going to break it all down in a little bit, and we're back again tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern for Vol Views, and it all kicks off again on Monday, another episode of The Option Block.
This episode is sponsored by Demand Derivatives, a startup futures exchange and clearinghouse trading the world's major assets in a creative new way. You already trade on an exchange. Here is your chance to own one. Before they approach large strategic partners for funding, the pioneering team at Demand Derivatives launched a crowdfunding portal so that regular traders have the chance to buy shares. Learn more and become a part of this revolutionary fintech project now at demandderivatives.com/crowdfunding. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.